Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. We're going to begin in just a moment, so if you would come and find a seat here in the chairs, we can wrap up our conversation for a few moments. I'm going to talk with our guest, Charlynda Scales. Then we're going to have a panel come up on stage. We'll talk with them for a few minutes, and then we'll have a chance to mix among the people here afterwards. So we continue our conversations in just a few minutes. I'll start in just a minute after our guest returns to the room. So have a seat, please. Well, welcome to Guidance for Growth. I'm going to call up our guest in just a moment. She's come all the way from Ohio. Have a seat. Guidance for Growth is intended to help provide resources for the business owner, the managers, the people in the business trying to make it work who are sometimes at a loss for what to do. And I started my company 24 years ago, and I can't tell you how many times I've reached a point where I just shake my head and just oh, what am I doing this for? Or how am I going to figure my way out of this? And there's so many times when we think that we've got to figure it all out ourselves. Now, we've got ChatGPT. Didn't have that 24 years ago. We've got Google. We've got all kinds of resources. But I think one thing I've learned over the years is that there's sometimes nothing better than a real human being sitting across from you who can understand and listen to what your situation is and respond personally to you. And that's also why we like doing live events in person. I've had how many Zoom webinars where I've learned a ton. But one thing that I've also learned, and something that Mark Nathan has helped me learn, is how much you can bring people together and be able to accomplish things in person, to make connections that you would never otherwise over some Zoom webinar. So we're starting to do more and more events. I've been encouraged to do this in part. Cameron Shaw, who is here, he helped runs the Austin Shopify meetup. And last year, he asked me to help bring some more attention to the meetup. It's been going for 10 years. We got 1,900 members. And he's like, hey, let's do some more with this. So Cameron is who you met when you came in the door. And in the last year, we've started to have more meetups in Austin, bringing people together, having connections. People are discovering, I can see people in the audience right now. Molly showed up at an Austin Shopify meetup. He had his product. He had a vision for it. How does he connect with the people who can help him? And so from the Austin Shopify meetup, I've been inspired by what Mark is doing with his Wake Up CPG meetups. He's encouraged other events that we did, and I think we're going to continue to do more. And so what we're doing here at the Capital Factory today is just a little more in the direction of more than a mixer. So I hope you can learn something from talking with Charlynda. She's come all the way from Ohio. We've got a panel of people that I'm very proud to introduce you to. We'll have some conversations about this. And I think we're going to have a chance to meet one another and walk away with hopefully some inspiration for how you can get help. Maybe you've met someone here today who knows someone. And that's as much of anything, I think, where someone like Mark Nathan is so well liked because it connects people to one another. If you need to know somebody who knows something that you need to know, it's probably a good place to ask, right? And there's other people in this room. Michelle from SKU is going to be on a panel, and she's a great connector as well. So I think there's others here that can also fill that role, and I'm glad to have this event to continue and do more of this kind of thing. So welcome. We'll begin. This is going to be a recording of a podcast that I started called Easier Business. And I did that a couple years ago because I want that from myself. Sometimes you got to create what you want for yourself. I'm just learning how to make my business feel easier. Which isn't to say I'm wanting to not work hard, but there's something to be said for a little bit less grind, a little more flow. So I think that's something that I want for myself, and this podcast is in that spirit. So with that, we're going to record the episode. We'll talk here for about 20 minutes or so, and then we'll move to our panel, and thank you for your attention. You got the mic turned on. Let me just do this.
How's everybody doing? Y'all look great.
All right. Before I do that, I wanted to just turn the screen back on. Just a moment before I do that. We've had a lot of help to make this event happen. And I want to just make a few comments about that. Lux Markets, where are you? There he is. He has arranged all of the vendors to come today. He's been a real help to bring this sort of thing. He's got these kind of things happening all the time. If you've got a business that you want a little more exposure to your products, looking at someone here, you should talk to him and maybe come to one of his events. This event is as much about helping you build your support network. And SendLane is a new software retention marketing tool that prides itself on its support. If you want to call someone on the phone, you want to have people walk you through, take care of all your email marketing problems, like some people have, SendLane is worth a closer look. Shipper HQ, very difficult to get shipping right. I just prefer someone else take care of all that stuff. And Shipper HQ is who I send our e-commerce clients to solve all of the stuff that shipping sometimes makes difficult. Even like freight shipments. I've got a client that sells a 700-pound machine, and they have the Shipper HQ app for BigCommerce. E53, Amar, where are you at? This guy, once you need someone to actually put things in a box and get it out the door, he can help you do that. Strata Cloud, I did an interview with Kyle. Is Kyle here? I don't think so, but one thing about Strata Cloud is basically a fractional CFO service. If you're trying to imagine the future, how you're going to make payroll and pay for your inventory as you grow, Kyle can run through some scenarios for you. eBusiness Pros is my company. We help develop email marketing, retention, marketing programs. That practice is led by Gabrielle. And Gabrielle right now is leading a panel discussion across town at Klaviyo's event, where she's doing Klaviyo stuff. So we do a lot of work with Klaviyo. We're getting to know SendLane as well, and eBusiness Pros as a resource. And then Easier Business is this podcast project. All right. I'm going to read an introduction. I wrote a special introduction for Charlynda. All right, are you ready?
I think so.
If the phrase commerce is culture means anything, what's the implication when half the founder-led CPG brands that participated in an e-commerce event last year are out of business this year? Entrepreneurial resilience can only take you so far. Hustle works for a while. What about access to affordable capital? How about enough shoppers willing to buy and buy again? These seem like they are increasingly hard to come by. The Federal Reserve's Consumer Credit Report this summer reported big declines in revolving credit. When the American shopper slows the swiping of their credit cards, economic calamity has already started or soon follows. So is it an economic tsunami, political turmoil, or just uncertainty across the land? Whatever the reason, it's making business challenging for company owners who are pinning their hopes on a fourth quarter spending spree. If commerce is culture, what does it say when Walmart is having a banner year, filling the carts of America's low, middle, and high-income families desperate to save a few bucks? How do you sell a premium, craft, specialty, natural, better for you, handmade kind of product when it's Walmart's world and we're just living in it? Today's guest is an Air Force Reserve officer that doesn't know how to quit. 10 years ago, she founded Mutt Sauce, a CPG brand inspired by her grandfather. She's done it all: Kroger Grocery, e-commerce, QVC, Shark Tank, brand partnerships with restaurant chains. And through it all, she's learned something that may serve us in the uncertain years ahead. She's a fierce advocate, a generous mentor. Her inspiring book, Rock Bottom Has a Trampoline, offers an encouraging tagline: how to turn every loss into a win with a like-hearted mentor. If you have the sense that you cannot go it alone, that you'll need help to not just survive, but thrive in a mixed-up economy limping towards a hoped-for Christmas shopper salvation, then you're in the right place, courageous listeners. All the way from Ohio, welcome Charlynda Scales to the Easier Business podcast.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you for that. Thank you, guys. I'm so excited to be here from Ohio. It's so much warmer. But seriously, thank you. I'm humbled at the invitation. Thank you, Patrick. The connections that I made even this morning at the CPG, Wake Up CPG, were phenomenal. It's great when you feel like you're kindred spirits, that you understand the day-to-day struggles of entrepreneurship, but specific to your industry. So that was something that I've definitely enjoyed since I've been here.
Now, we met because Charlynda has a mentor, a certain guy on Shark Tank, and he said, look, Charlynda, whatever you're doing, get your email list in order. Figure out Klaviyo. And she needed some help. You have been through 10 years, and you've had a number of mentors. Damon John is just one of them, but you told me a story about starting with a SCORE mentor. And SCORE, if you've not heard of them, is a wonderful organization. I hope Charlynda can tell us about how they've helped you. They weren't able to be here this afternoon, but really wanted to. So what was your experience with your first mentor and trying to figure that out?
Certainly. Well,
Hold that a little bit closer.
I'll tell you, I'm a country girl from Tennessee. So that's why I got my boots on, too. I grew up with my granddad, but when it came to, we'll go back and talk about that, but when it came to starting the company, I realized, like, I'm in uncharted waters. I really just wanted to make a couple bottles for friends and family. It was not an ambition to have all the things that we have now with Mutt Sauce. My family was grieving, even though my grandfather had passed 8 years prior. I had now been given this piece of paper that hopefully could heal the family. And I Googled free help. That's really how I found SCORE. I mean, I said, I need some free help locally. They showed up. They're retired executives, score.org. You can go to a organization in your city, and they will provide you a mentor who will walk you through checklists or provide you with resources locally to help you get to your goal. Now, with my goal just being a couple bottles, the mentor that I had, John Suter, he said, I want to hear about your journey up to walking into this office. And so when I told him about my upbringing and my love of my grandfather, I was on active duty, so there was my commitment to serving my country that came first. And then I had this curiosity of what I could do with this piece of paper. He said, but what I'm hearing about what you want to do and about your grandfather is that he loved his family so much. and he passed from stage 4 cancer, stage 4 lung cancer. He said he just ran out of time. So he passed the baton, and he's hoping that you're going to do something with it. Because I was like, I don't know what to do. He didn't leave any instructions.
The recipe. That was
the recipe. And so he took that. He said, we need to turn this into a physical product. And you don't know it now, but there's letters like CPG and tomato-based manufacturing. And I was like already glazed over ADHD. So I'm like, I don't know nothing about that. And he said, I know, but eventually you'll have something that will guarantee that you can take care of not just one, but multiple generations of your family if we play your cards right. You just got to sign up for this journey. That's all I need is your commitment to going on this journey, because it really is a journey. And that's how we got started. John Suter.
Yeah. I also like to think that in that story of your grandfather, I had an experience recently where I was reminded of my grandfather and his encouragement. And I think that it sort of led me to rediscover a relationship with him, and he passed 20 years ago. But I feel the sense of him still present, still encouraging me. I met someone at the Wake Up CPG earlier this morning who was inspired to create a product from their grandfather. You have this same sort of encouragement. It strikes me that as much as we can find resources like SCORE or Capital Factory, we always have our own ancestors, in a way, to encourage us in ways that maybe go beyond than we can even realize. Have you ever had moments over the last 10 years where you felt a little desperate, maybe felt the hand of your grandfather on your shoulder?
You came to bring the tears, okay? But yes, I agree with you. I really do feel like they are always watching over us. And there were times where it was really difficult. I'm staring down these net payments. I'm looking at bills and I'm looking at my bank account. Like, we have got to make this happen. But in those times where it's really hard, I know that he loved me so much that he is making a way for it to work. He would not give this to me to put me on a journey that was impossible. He would not give me something that would cause strife in my life. So knowing that someone loved you enough to do this for you made those moments like, I'm going to make it. I have to make it. I will make it.
Now, Charlynda is still trying to figure out your business, right? You're still as much an entrepreneur as anything, but you have become a mentor to others at the same time. And I said earlier in my introduction that she's a fierce advocate. And I don't know if you follow her Instagram channel, but she has some things she needs to tell you. Some things she thinks that should be different in the world. I think, could you speak to how you have transitioned from just being an entrepreneur on your own journey to somehow wanting to become this advocate? And I mentioned affordable capital earlier. You spoke to that, I think, in a recent video.
Well, I think what we seek along the journey is, does anyone understand what I'm going through? I don't want to feel alone on this journey. And what you have to do sometimes is open your mouth and tell your story, or just talk about an issue that's really grinding your gears, and you'll find out that someone else is over there like, heck yeah, man, this is a problem. And one of those is access to capital or access to resources that we take for granted that we have. Like, I don't know. I'm going to have to go back to Dayton, Ohio and see if we have something like this. I need to find a Wake Up CPG. I just really felt fulfilled in a short amount of time. In the military, in the Air Force, we call it getting re-blued. So I was like, I am re-blued right now. But yeah, I feel like those times that we have been at rock bottom, I saw a couple videos of entrepreneurs that I admired, and on the surface, and if you would look at TV and things that had happened for them, they were successful. They were very successful CPG brands. And one of them was going online to say, I'm shutting down my business. I've already maxed out my 401k twice. My children's savings are gone. My family's savings are gone. Just wanted y'all to know what my journey's really been like. I have no money. And I'm like, she was Oprah's favorite thing. Like, she was chosen as Oprah's favorite thing. You get massive sales from that. She was on ABC News, David Muir. Like, how do you reconcile those two realities? But that is the reality for so many founders, that they are being applauded and put on billboards, and they are suffering, and they are broke, and they are tired. And I feel that. And so, yeah, I wanted to amplify their story so other people could have a place to say, this is not just a her problem. This is a common problem. And then we can bring people to the table to solve it.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And the palpable, felt sense of her. I watched her video also, and the way she was explaining with kind of not for any lack of extraordinary effort. We have on our panel Luis, who will be talking. He's coming into Capital Factory, and he has an interest in getting some capital through that program. So it might be interesting to get his perspective in that way. If you think about what you want your business to be, you said you'd hope that your grandfather would be provision for your family for the generation to come. You have a son. What do you hope for your brand as you think about the future, as you're trying to make this next phase? You have this role as a mentor. You've written a book, but then you also have your brand. Where do you feel most called at this point in your career?
Well, I tell people everything that's happened with Mutt Sauce is beyond my wildest dreams, because it was a piece of paper. I'm not a trust fund kid, y'all. Many people think I probably was. They're like, oh, you inherited a company. No, I inherited a 3x5 index card. Right? But I'm proud. I'm so proud and humbled at everything that has come from that what I can look back and see memories. They made a special deck of bicycle cards and put small businesses on it. We're on the official deck of bicycle cards. Shark Tank, I was only in business for 6 months. I had no idea what I was doing when I got to Shark Tank. The humbling part about that was you're supposed to figure out a person that you want to pitch to. And I was like, Damon John, single mom, hustled, grinded, showed up to Hollywood. Who's here? Everybody but Damon John. So I'm like, are you kidding me? You're deflated. You walk in there. There's a lot of complexities to Shark Tank, but did I get a deal? No, I was the first active duty Air Force person to ever appear on Shark Tank. So the complexity with that is you are on a military contract. There is nothing more important than serving your country. Do not quit your job on national TV. Don't do that. So there was a lot of complexities to Shark Tank, but them saying, you have something here, you'll figure out what it is, just don't quit. 4 years later, we won the Bob Evans Farms Heroes of CEOs contest, and I remember answering my phone. I was in a federal building, and I normally don't answer if I don't know what the number is. I was like, New York, that's kind of strange. Hi, this is Damon John. I'm like, I'm getting punked right now. But they said, yeah, he said, Bob Evans assigned me to be your mentor. So that is how I met Damon John. When I look at everything, I'm like, wildest dreams have already happened. So what's next from here? And it might surprise people, but the most employees that have ever been with Mutt Sauce is 2. So I once hired my dad during the pandemic. That was it. And now it's just me. And I have a lot of independent contractors, but I want it to be something more fully automated. Numbers are very important to me. So before I get into give me 1,000 stores, I want to see the numbers. I need to make sure that I'm not accepting 1,000 stores and I'm in the red on day one. Because I've been through those experiences. They're not fun. But I want to see something fully automated that I know that I can confidently dream out loud of. This will be something that you will think in your household. I need ketchup, I need hot sauce, or I need mud sauce. If I go overseas, my MRE will not just be Tabasco, it will also be mud sauce. Because not everybody can eat hot sauce. I can't do it. But I want it to be a part of at least the American family experience, that you have in your head is like, this is what I use. And I have to say, my son, he sent me a car. I looked in my bag and I was like, oh, my baby sent me a car for good luck. Great.
Now, you're also an author, somehow found time to write the book. And you'll have to tell the story, but Rock Bottom has a trampoline. I think what we talked about doing this event maybe in February. Mm-hmm. And as the event got closer and closer, what became clear to me was that the tagline of this was actually the heart of this event and the idea behind it. So tell me what you mean when you say a like-hearted mentor. Why is that important?
I don't like the term like-minded, Patrick. That's really what it is. And on the journey, I found that the like-minded people don't help you with growth. Like-minded people will agree with you. They love all your ideas, even the crazy ones that are unexecutable, and will run you into so much debt. They're like, let's do it, man. They don't have you have to find those people in your life. You know who they are. They're the ones who will disagree with you. They will tell you that you're wrong, but at no point did you ever feel like they didn't come from a place of love. Like that friend that's like, let's go do it. And they're like, you are nuts. No. There's that friend. They share your core values, and that's what's important. So in my organization, I want you to disagree with me. I want you to give me a new idea. I want you to redirect me. I don't want it to just be this circle of agreement. I can't grow like that. So I say surround yourself with like-hearted people. You can disagree, you can be respectful, and go back and forth, open up the ideas, see something fresh.
The like-hearted mentor, I think, also has potential to be the one that believes in you when you're wavering in your own belief in yourself. Has that been some of your experience?
There are people who see something that you have not yet seen in yourself. When they tell you what you can do and you're sitting there like, but I cannot look at my life. It is a mess. I have a toddler. You're going to write a book. I have a toddler. So, but the like-hearted person, my writer, Brunella, she was watching my speeches for 4 years. She said, this needs to be a book. And I said, okay. She said, at no point did I say you had to write this book. I just said, this needs to be a book. Please give me your time. I'm asking you for the most valuable thing. But when we finally sat down, 5 a.m. every day for 2 weeks, she wrote the entire book in 2 weeks. So 4 years of just trying to get me to sit down so she could execute it in 2 weeks.
She believed in the book beyond your ability to do so.
Because in my head, I was like, I got to do it. I got to write the book. And she's like, I didn't say that. I said, I need you to slow down.
There's a woman here who's going to be on the panel in a few minutes, Michelle Breyer from the SKU organization, which is a wonderful accelerator for CPG brands. And Michelle told me a story in preparation for this event where she had her own company at one point, and it was just a crazy idea about curly hair, and who needs to solve that problem? But she had the sense of it, and she told me the story of she had a mentor who pulled up a whiteboard one day and said, here's how we're going to get to $1 million. In ways that Michelle had never, I can't even imagine it some ways. And that's the belief, she had the sense of it being a product that needed to be existing in the world. But to believe that it could be $1 million business, that mentor seemed like he needed to say it and sketch it out so she could also believe it. Have you had moments like that?
With you, actually, Patrick. Well, because when we talk about email marketing and some of these concepts were foreign to me at the time. Like email marketing, I know it's important. I'm hearing my mentor say it's important. And sometimes, especially as some solo entrepreneurs, they'll go on YouTube in a heartbeat. Like, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure out how to do this. Versus hire the person who says, I got you. I will knock this out. Just trust in me. I can see this working for you. And you said that to me. He was like, I got you. I can do this. And you did it.
Well, you got to have your own list. It couldn't be more important to have your own direct path to back those customers and get them to buy again. As you think about what goes after this book, where do you feel entrepreneurs need the most help? What is most needed today, 2024?
Money.
Capital. Tell me more about that.
Well, just like I was watching the video of the young lady who's, she's trying to rebuild her whole life, not just hers, but her family's. And all she needed was someone to cut her a check. She was waiting on payments from people, and her bills are piling up, and she still had not gotten paid for things. So just that is a cycle in itself that can ruin so many things. Financial literacy is another one. So it's not just give them money, but help them understand what to do with the money. There's so many, I sit on pitch contests where I'm listening to their pitch and like, why does that website have to be $10,000? For what? What are you going to do with it? Or, you check on them a little bit later. I'm like, did you buy that inventory we said you needed to buy? No. I'm like, I see that new car though. It's a nice car. So they need the discipline, the financial literacy, but they do need that infusion of cash. I mean, you see some of these VC funded or they've won the cash infusions from different contests. Don't make it complicated to get the money. Don't make it something they have to fly across the country and then do the pitch for the chance of money. They've spent money. They probably needed the money that they spent to get there. And so you sent everybody but the winner home broke. So just giving perspective on that. And then popularity contests. If they don't have a big team to be out there, like I'm trying to get 1 million votes so I can possibly win some money, like they don't have time for that. Figure out what they need. Take the time to do the interview to figure out if it will actually help their business, and then help their business and keep it moving.
Well said. We're here at Capital Factory. There's all kinds of creative ways of bringing money into the business. I want to wrap up with the last question is, beyond money, where do you feel entrepreneurs can find the most value, or if they were to think about something besides money, where do you find they could invest their time, their attention, their resources to develop themselves personally? Because sometimes the business is bounded by what we personally bring to it.
Well, behind every business is a person. And I try to meet them where they are and lead with empathy. That maybe they were also raised by a single mother, or maybe right now they are a single mother, or maybe they don't have the resources or anyone to hear the rock bottom moments that they're going through. I navigated the week after winning Bob Evans, and that's chapter 1, winning a national prize, saying that I am part of a duo. My best friend and I are going to grow this empire together as a married couple, and left that marriage in the middle of the night the very next week. So you don't have time to really digest the massive amount of emotions sometimes that you're going to encounter on the journey of a founder. You have to keep it moving. I was on multiple television channels and doing interviews and stuff, and every one of them demanded that I'm going, Hi, I'm Charlynda. I'm the founder of Mutt Sauce. I am blessed and highly favored. This is the best time of my life. And I was living in an apartment with no furniture. Okay? That is reality. And when I know that I've been through that, I have to pause. Before I start talking about business, I'm going to ask you about your life. Because if you're talking about you're going to take on all these accounts and you want to do all these massive things, and I know that you got 3 little ones at home and a spouse that barely ever sees you, when this is all said and done, they're the ones that you're spending the rest of your life with. Not all your customers, not all of them. I want the rest of your life to be fulfilling. So I would say to challenge all of us to lead with that empathy. Not as professionals, but as human beings. Choose empathy because we're way more connected than we realize.
We are more connected than we realize. Thank you. Well, let's end our conversation here. I want to bring up the panelists in just a moment. And this is also maybe just, if we're going to have the slightest kumbaya moment in this event, it's going to happen now. We're not going to hold hands, though. It is the Capitol Factory. No, it is the Capitol Factory. There might be a drum, though. All right. We can go have a seat over here, Charlynda. You could actually right in the front row. And then we're going to bring our panel up. I'm just going to play a song while we're making this transition. And thanks, Charlynda, for coming down on the show.
You do not carry this all alone. No, you do not carry this all alone. This is way too big for you to carry this on your own. So you do not carry this all alone. You do not carry this all alone. You do not carry this all alone.
Yeah, I think so.
This is way too big for you to carry. You do not carry this all alone. Do not carry this shots. This is way too big for you to carry this on your own. You not carry this all alone. Do not carry this all alone. Do not carry this all alone. This is way too big for you to carry this on your own.
All right. That's an interesting song, isn't it? Something that I've been reminding myself of as often as I can. Emily, you're still here with us? bit of an echo, seems like a reverb on the mics. All right, we've got our helper with Capital Factory just going to sort out the audio. We've got the panelists mic'd up, and
I think that's me.
is it? Why is that? You feel it?
Me. Now it works.
Let's just do a quick sound check for each of us. I'll just have each of you just go through and say hi on the mic and see if that works.
Check, check. Okay.
Check, check.
Check, check.
Check.
Yeah, but I feel like it's, it's,
Now somebody else. Turn yours on. Your mics are too close to each other.
Yeah.
It's turned on.
Right. I was there.
While we're getting that figured out, I'm going to introduce our panelists, and we'll get the audio squared away. So I want to introduce Mark Nathan. He's a connector in the CPG world and the tech world in Austin. He runs the Wake Up CPG meetup and a number of other things, and I'm grateful to have him here at the event. Michelle Breyer, she's the Chief Marketing Officer of the SKU CPG Accelerator here in Austin. She's an entrepreneur herself, and she's got a fall cohort that has just been announced. Founders are going through an intensive learning process that she's facilitating and organizing. Luis, a new entrant into the Capital Factory family. He's got a long history in sales, and now he's got his own brand. We've got some tequila on the stage. After we're done, you're welcome to come up to him and get a sip. Ron Hollis is also with us, and Ron has also a background in sales, technology. He's been around the block. He knows a thing or two about how to go through a difficult time and find resources and support in a group sort of support network. So he's going to be offering a perspective on how you can find maybe alternative ways of support than, say, something like Capital Factory. He's also got the guts to do things like cold call Larry Ellison at Oracle. Because, who says he can't? And it sort of worked out. So he's got good stories for us, too. All right. Let's try the mics again and see if it...
Well,
Y'all's mics are also hanging a little low. If you want.
heard that before. There you go. Thanks.
like this.
Well, Mark, if we could...
Okay, that, okay.
Mark, let's start with you, and maybe you could tell us a little bit how you imagine sort of the Austin ecosystem developing as a support network. These events is just one form of support. I think you know about a lot of the other forms. As you sort of look at the whole big picture, would you set the stage for us and the kind of resources that you see most effective for the entrepreneurs that you encounter?
Thank you, and great question. First of all, thank you very much for having me, Patrick, and the whole team. I'm really appreciative. It's been a great event so far, so thank you. To answer your question, I need to ask a question myself. How many people have been in Austin for less than 1 year? Pretty good. And more than 5 years? Okay, for the people that have been here for more than 5 years, you already know this. For the people here less than a year, you're going to learn this. You're here 2 weeks, so I know. The number one side hustle of everybody in this room and everybody in Austin is helping each other. That is something that I've been proven true. I've seen it personally. I've seen it across the board for all kinds of different industries, people, types of folks. Austin is a very magical, special place, not because of our weather, even though today was gorgeous, not because of our traffic, not so great today. It's because the people here want to be here, and we like each other. We see each other socially. We see each other because it's fun to see each other. We go to events because we want to see our friends. And that is the magic of Austin. And that right there is the key to the entire financial, CPG, e-commerce ecosystem in Austin. Everybody's driven by money. We have to be. That's just the name of the game. But here in Austin, I can tell you that we really do like to do business with people we like. And events like this, events like the things you mentioned earlier, ways to get more involved, ways to connect with each other. That's the most important thing for people in Austin, and the ecosystem reflects that. The money is here. It actually does exist. We do have venture capital money here. We do have private equity money. We do have family office money. It's not nearly enough for all the brands that are out there, but there are ways to connect as long as you're open and friendly or willing to come out to an event like this. Long-winded answer, but I think I answered it.
Thank you. Now, Charlynda said that finance or money was the number one thing. Luis is here from Capital Factory's sort of program. Can you speak to why you were feeling the need to go into the Capital Factory? You have a lot of experience. Maybe you could have done it on your own, but you wanted something more. What was that?
Well, yeah. So, again, Patrick, thank you for having me here and to let me share my story. So I have been in the liquor industry for about 20 years. I decided to put together, assemble a team of experts where we have from the distillery, from agave growers, distributors. It's a very vertical integration of the project. We have been doing this for a long time. It has been a very unusual launch as far as the doors that we were able to open in a very short period of time. However, none of us in our team really had been exposed to raise capital, which is a completely different monster. So when in the liquor industry, it's very cash intensive industry, and the business is going phenomenal right now. But again, we don't have that financial arm that can help us to keep bringing capital into the business. So I was introduced with Capital Factory through a friend of mine, actually, that is also in the liquor industry, Chris Seal from Still Austin Whiskey, and he said, I think you will be very happy of having a partner like Capital Factory on your side. So I'm very excited to be part of the family now.
Michelle, would you tell us about SKU and how that is a resource for entrepreneurs and maybe how it's different? What is different about SKU than Capital Factory?
So SKU, for those of you who don't know, is the nation's first CPG accelerator. Started here in 2011, and it's all consumer products. Started by a group of very successful founders who saw like a void in the marketplace. So the curriculum is all very focused on the needs of what, a beauty company, a wine, food, if you can eat it or smell it or wear it, we'll probably take a look at it. But it was really the mentoring that was the special sauce. And I know that sounds kind of cliche. In fact, one of our mentors is here. Charday, are you around still? Anyway, we are very, like our mentor, we recruit the best of the best from all over the country. And we look for people who, like, number one, are very, very accomplished and, smart in different areas, whether that's supply chain or finance, but that also, like, have that empathy and really, really want to help, a founder scale their company. And then we create teams, so the mentors work together. And that was something, I came in as a mentor after I sold my company, and I really loved that the most because I had this group, every brand basically had an executive team of mentors who all work together. Each person has a different area of expertise. It's very, very intentional, the way that we put together the teams. So if you're a beverage company, we're going to make sure that you have, somebody with expertise in all those different areas and that people have beverage experience on that team. And I think in addition to the founder getting everything they need, the mentors just develop such amazing relationships with each other. And they learn things from people who are really leaders in the industry and, expand their network. And so it's really about community. So it's not just an accelerator, it's like a huge community of, I think we have like 700 people who have mentored. Some of them are, incredibly successful founders, top executives at places like Coke and General Mills and Whole Foods. And it's just a very special community. So I hope that answers your question.
Mark spoke to how Austin is a special community in the way that people want to help each other, work with those they like. I was at a conference somewhere and I came across a woman who told me how she's from Atlanta, and she hoped someday to be accepted into the SKU program in Austin. And I thought, I'm in Austin, I take this for granted. I wanted to come back, and after I met her, I wanted a closer look at what you guys are doing. And sometimes you just take for granted how we have these wonderful resources right here in our community that we don't even realize how across the country people hope to get in. Now, Ron, you have been in Austin a long time. You've seen it grow. When I was speaking with Charlynda earlier, I said something to the effect that sometimes our businesses are limited by what we ourselves as the founder can bring. In other words, it's not just you can have all the money in the world, you can have all the mentors in the world, even people who like us and want to help us, but at some point, where we are individually can sometimes be the place where it all needs to come together. Could you speak to, is your experience as you think about the things you've seen in business, how it comes back at some point, or what it means for the individual? How much are they the bottleneck in their business?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, I would say that I have had no commercial success. And as a result of no commercial success, I've had an enormous amount of personal success. I have started multiple companies. I've worked on amazing projects, and I've been fired from 6 or 7 startups. And at the end of the day, it kind of all came down to me. I was the problem. And it's because I try to do everything on my own. And I didn't want to let anybody in. I didn't want to share my ideas. I didn't want to share my thoughts. I didn't want to be vulnerable. And it all came kind of crumbling down. Like he talked about me calling Larry Ellison. I did call Larry Ellison. I was at Little Woodrow's on a Wednesday night, steak night. Anybody of y'all been in Austin for a while, you knew what that was. And I was with a friend of mine, Dean, and he's executive at Salesforce. And we had worked together for 6 years, and he's from Boston, and he said, stop talking all this crap and call him. And so I called him, and I'd been drinking quite a bit. And his secretary answered the phone. I said, yeah, it's Ron, is Larry around? And she said, is Larry around? I said, yeah, y'all are doing a release on your 18 platforms, and I want to help. And so I she gives me Thomas Karan's number, and then I meet with Prem Kumar, and it's like this crazy thing. It took me about 6 weeks, and then they didn't let me go to the meeting that I had set up. And so, what did I do? I got out the kerosene and the matches, and I burned that thing down, man, quit the job and kept on drinking, right? Because that was kind of solving my problems. And, and what happened to me is I had to hit that bottom. I mean, you talked about it when you were up here. Like you got to get to the end of yourself at some point. And for me, it's like getting to the end of myself is actually where I found myself, is able to start doing things and start asking for help. And, to your point, Mark, I mean, there's lots of people in this community that, met me with open arms. It's like, oh, right, cool. You did that? You did that? Wow, you did that? Oh, yeah, I did all of that. And, had to, in some sense, I had to grow up in public, which was pretty embarrassing, right? Because I did some stuff, I worked with some companies you guys have probably heard of, and I've worked on some projects that are actually, when I look at my resume, I'm like, wow, this is pretty awesome. I can't believe I got to do that. And yet I haven't had any commercial success. And it's like, oh, but what I do is a lot of hand-to-hand combat, right? And I think the hand-to-hand combat is where it's at. And if you can sit knee to knee with somebody, I think that's really where the rubber meets the road. That's where you leverage the resources that you've used, able to exchange knowledge and, wisdom and also enlightenment that comes from that type of activity. I don't know if I answered your question, but.
Yeah, I think you have. And Ron, as much as he's humble man. He's also sold a lot of Live Strong bracelets and things like that. So, Michelle, tell me, as you think about the mentors, the founders that you've put through your program, there's a lot of experts, ops, finance, but what do you notice when they need to develop themselves personally as an entrepreneur? There's a lot of emotion that builds up. What have you observed over the years in the founders you've come through, and where they feel they need to stretch and grow personally?
It's the vulnerability is the key. I think being able to, the best founders, or the ones who get the most out of the program, are the ones who just know what they know what they don't know, are willing to listen. It is incredibly hard. I mean, I know when I started my company, it's your baby, and people are going to poke holes at it, and they're going to tell you it's ugly, and it's incredibly, it can be incredibly emotional. But I had an amazing mentor who had the empathy to be able to, help you listen and be willing to be open to other ideas. And that can be really, really hard. If you've created a product, you have to have a certain amount of stubbornness to do it. You have to believe that this is the best thing that anybody has ever come up with. But to be a successful founder, sometimes you also have to be able to realize there's a lot that could be much better. So I think, you look at Siete, for example, the founders had to be willing to totally reposition that product. It was called Must Be Nutty, and they, was really focused on...
Must be nutty?
Must Be Nutty. And they rebranded, and they repositioned into kind of grain-free, and, the rest is history. But if they had been really wedded to, this is the way it has to be, this is the product I created, this is the name I created, and not been willing to kind of evolve it, I don't think we would be, seeing it take up huge shelf space in every store. So,
Yeah, it's a great story, and also family business too.
yeah.
Luis, you've created your own product now. What somehow gave you the courage to not just work for somebody else? Because this is now your baby.
It is.
Can you tell us what it is, why you've inspired to create it?
Well, big part of the inspiration on this project, when I put together the co-founders that I have, it was we all had one goal in common: to create something that was meaningful. And the name of our brand is called Humano. It means human. And a big part of the inspiration on the name really was our partner in Mexico has been growing agaves for 4 generations. So we decided to create a product where we can also tell a meaningful story. When people ask me, who's going to be your celebrity? I said, my celebrity are my farmers. So, and we know we can't change the world, but we're going to try to change one life at a time from our farmers. So on every bottle that we produce, not that we sell, but that we produce, a little portion goes to them. So this is a whole community project for all of us. And again, the inspiration of going on our own, we really wanted to make history and create something meaningful in the world. So
I'm looking forward to sampling a little later.
Absolutely.
Mark, you have heard a lot of stories about why a product was being created. I remember you told me a story one time about Granarly.
Morgan Potts, sure.
You also told me, I think, what I really liked about the CPG world, what you said was, you can have a bunch of tech bros in a room saying they got the next best code, they have the next best app, but then someone like Morgan walks up to you and says, hey, try my granola with whiskey in it. And there's a generosity, there's a palpable, real sense of this is actually good. You can tell immediately. What have you noticed as you meet people like that? What sets those companies apart? Is it the passion for the product? Is it a story like Luis just told? What is it?
The it factor can come from anywhere, but people know it when they see it. I see it in Charlynda here. she's got it. You just know. And there's people out there, it could be in any industry. It doesn't have to be CPG. It doesn't have to be tech. It doesn't have to be anything. But certain people just have that spark. This young lady right here, Emily, right, she has it. She's going to be humble about it, but she does. You could just tell after you meet a lot of people if they're passionate about what they said, if they care about what they're talking about. I'm in sales. It's what I do for a living, right? A lot of people think sales is a 4-letter word, and it is for a lot of people because it doesn't feel authentic. But the best part about Austin is, like I said earlier, this is the best place to be yourself. And the best way to sell a brand, the best way to grow a company, the best way to basically create a community is to be yourself. And that happens more often than not here in Austin. So to answer your question directly about a brand, the best part about CPG in the category of just dealing with business is that you know the minute you put it in your hand, the minute you touch it to your tongue, if it's going to work or not. It might not be for you, but you know if the brand works. That's why so many brands do well on Shark Tank. It's a very easy decision, yes or no. Tech people, it's true. I'm a very active mentor here at Capital Factory and have been for a long time. I come from the tech business, not the CPG business. And you could probably attest to this. CPG people just want to put a smile on your face. They really do. That's the end game. I mean, yes, they want to make money, but they just want to see you happy. Tech people just want to be the smartest guy in the room for the most part. And sometimes they are. And I straddle both, but I must tell you, there's no secret. CPG people are just the nicest, kindest, warmest, most fun people in the world. And that's why you're in it, right? I mean, yes, you're going to make a lot of money with selling tequila, but it's fun to give people tequila and make them happy.
Right.
There's certainly a desire to make people happy, and then there's also kind of the quest to make it big, to feel like you've got to, hit it out of the park. Ron, I'm curious if you think about the times you've encountered people who just want to hit it out of the park and will do anything, sacrifice anything, trying to make it, at some point there's this reckoning, I think, it comes upon where the distance between who they are as a person and what they're promising, what they're selling, it's too big of a gap, it seems like. Mark just spoke to how it comes down to the person and being themselves. Could you speak, Ron, to what happens when you kind of get too far away from who you are really inside?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can speak a lot to that, so I'll try to keep it brief. I think what happened for me, and I see it in a lot of people, and I do work with a lot of people, is the gap between their identity and their personality. I think that's where all people's suffering exists, is that inability to reconcile who they truly are versus who I want you to think I am. And a lot of people bullshit themselves. And they get into, sorry about that, I probably shouldn't cuss, but that's what happens. And, they get into situations where people co-sign that. And if you find yourself in that situation, it's not a good place to be. Because I think that's, at least for me, that's where that was a breeding ground for risky behavior. It was a breeding ground for drug addiction, from alcoholism, for womanizing, for lying. It's where all of that stuff, to me, it all happens there. And if you're sitting out here and you got your own deal and you're doing that, and you don't think you have any of those issues, I would suggest that you really look at yourself. Because there's one thing that we all have in common, and that's the addiction to our own way of thinking. And it can bury you. And, I see that happening over and over again to people. And that's the real sad thing. And so you can get addicted to what you're doing. You can get lost in it. And you can ignore everything else. And if you ignore everything else, it will go away.
I've heard that money sometimes just amplifies whatever it is we have going on. Luis, here you are, you're looking to start your company, you get going, you're looking to bring some capital from the Capital Factory, or the people that they can make you connected to. As you think about your own years ahead, how do you imagine yourself navigating them? If the money comes, you think you got all that you need, how will you yourself stay on the course, stay true to the vision you have? You just described a moment ago with the farmers in Mexico.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking just earlier here, like this is a roller coaster of emotions, right? So, I mean, one, I think, is be true to yourself. And when you are up, make sure that you have your feet on the ground. When you're low, get closer to the people that really knows you and loves you, and try to come back up. And from the business perspective, like, I think the fact that we have been in the industry for so long, we have a very well-defined goal and path that we want to follow. So, I mean, it will be just a matter of the execution.
Yeah. I want to take a question from the audience here in just a moment. So if you have one, feel free to just raise your hand and I'll bring the microphone to you. Before I do that, though, Mark, you've seen a lot of events come through Capital Factory. You've seen a lot of organizations come and go over the years. If you think about how an entrepreneur might navigate all the choices, all the events they have to choose from, I said earlier that Gabrielle, who works with me over at a Clavio event right now, just how do you find, or what would you encourage, how does someone navigate all these resources in the city in a way that feels like they're not overwhelmed with just too much advice and they can find the right match for where they are in their business?
Well, I'm looking around for somebody. Where's Ethan Brooks? He still here?
He just left.
He just left. Ethan Brooks writes the Austin Business Review newsletter. It is the single best newsletter you're going to find for events in the city of Austin for all kinds of events. So number one, that's the first thing you do. There's a calendar hosted by a group called Fiesta, which hosts many events here in this room. Many people know that's probably the second best calendar in all of Austin. Way, way, way far down that list is a newsletter that I write once a week that hopefully gets some things that are important. But the truth
Is that called Texas Squared?
Thank you.
That's weird.
But the hard part, and this is such an interesting thing, we're dealing in a post-COVID world. And post-COVID world means that we're not looking at 4 or 5 different channels. We're not on LinkedIn every day. For people under 30, they haven't been on Facebook once this week. For us, that's crazy, but it's true. There's no place to broadcast events anymore. We're not all on Twitter. We're not all on blogs. We're not talking to each other because we're isolated doing our own business. So to answer your question, and this is the hard part, you have to show up. You show up to events that may not be a perfect fit for you until you find the perfect fit. And that's the point. The best part about Austin, and I'm very proud to say this because it involves Michelle, is that Austin has so many events right now that everybody's got a fear of missing out. We have FOMO. And that's a good thing. It means that we're active. It means there's activities happening. So just this week, there was a CPG dinner that I was invited to, and it was very nice to go. Unfortunately, it overlapped with Michelle's big startup CPG SKU happy hour. And I had to make a choice. And
You made the wrong one.
I know. I did. But that's the point. The fact we have choices here, you can pick and choose. You can show up. And here's the best part. Look at us right now. If you don't like an event, start your own. Here we did this. And the fact is that happens all the time. Emily and I did a summer series of business networking this summer for networking. Things pop up. Meet your friends. Alice in the back. Wave. She hosts a number of meetups, the All In Podcast Meetup, the My First Million Podcast Meetup. These are not directly e-commerce or CPG or business meetups, but these are meetups where like-minded people go. So just show up is basically my answer. And if you don't like it, you can always leave.
Is there a question from the audience, or I could put someone on the spot? Yeah, how about you up here? I'll give you the microphone and you can speak it to yourself.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for being here. I have a question for the sales guys in the room. I just left a career at Salesforce to join a startup. Went bankrupt in 4 months and learned a lot about discernment. I got to learn firsthand the capacity that authenticity and the desire to genuinely serve others can have as a salesperson. I'm curious what reflections or advice you might have that are some of the highest leverage ways to leverage the sales skills at a young age in an entrepreneurial context or in any context. If anything comes up for you guys, I'd be super curious to hear.
I mean, I can tell you on in my world, in the liquor industry, be present. Like you have to be out. Like if you want to be in sales and you want to be behind the desk, that's not the right job. Second thing to me that is very important is the follow-ups. Like a lot of times you go out to an event, you meet great people, get great synergy, then that's it. You never follow up and it dies right there. So be present and do follow up. That's my advice.
For me, because various points in my career was, biz dev, and for me, it's always been relationships. Like developing that relationship with that person and really liking them as a person and caring about them way beyond whether they're going to give you money or not. And, being okay, and sometimes encouraging them not to do business with you because it may not be right for them. But, people can't read you as just, oh, they're looking to make money off me. I mean, but don't develop that relationship in a way that it feels inauthentic that, this person really doesn't want to do this, but their end goal is I'm a sale. So I don't know if that answers the question, but I mean, some of my best friends are people that were clients because I actually really cared about them.
Yeah, I would say listen and learn as much as you possibly can. And, you can do quirky things. Like I know a lot of people in Austin, and one of the things I used to do if I'd see someone 3 times in the same place, I'd introduce myself. I'd ask them questions about themselves. Everyone loves to talk about themselves. They're the favorite subject. Just ask them, and then use your network. Don't be afraid to ask for help. That would be the big thing, is because there's someone out there that's looking to help you, right?
And I want to add to that. He's 100% right. This is very practical and tactical. Very simple. Just be helpful first. Somebody mentioned something, maybe send them an article about it. Maybe make a quick introduction to somebody who's doing something similar. But if you do somebody a favor, they're more likely to do you a favor back. I mean, that's obvious. The other thing, and this is very, 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 it's very me. Remember somebody's name, they'll love you forever. It's just the way it works.
Luis, is there something else that you'd want to encourage as you think about the brands here that are starting their own? I know some people in the audience have their own products, people around the side, the tables, all our vendors over on the side. Would you give them any encouragement as we think about wrapping things up here on the panel, that as they maybe are a little bit behind where you are right now in your company, or they're a little bit ahead, where would you say?
Yeah, I would say stick to your plan. Not everything goes the way you think it will be. Again, it's a roller coaster. A lot of times when I thought, especially when we were developing the company, developing the concept, when a lot of things that can go wrong, and they do. So, but when you have a goal in mind, you overcome all the issues. So, stick with it, and things will happen.
I introduced Charlynda earlier as someone who didn't know how to quit. Do you have any observations for us as you think about what you've heard on the panel, or just as you hear what Luis just said about not quitting?
Well, I think, when it comes to the journey, you got to know when you keep going, but it's okay. It's okay when you're like, enough is enough, and knowing what's enough for you, and not carrying on what everybody else is saying. You all have such relatable journeys, and I'm so glad to have been able to meet you and hear a little bit more about what you do. I want to co-sign on the misery, the margin of misery, as I was thinking, because, it is, you want to live authentically. You want to be exactly who you tell people you are. And when they see you, you want that to be real. And so I applaud you all, because I'm just seeing so much realness up here. And so thank you for bringing that to us.
Well, I think we'll pause our panel here now. I hope you all have conversations with people up here on the stage. We're going to break. You can mix and talk with them individually. There's some food over here. We'll taste some tequila.
Yes.
There are also some pretzel sticks for the mutt sauce. Is there 2 flavors or just one? Okay, okay. So the pretzels are how you dip it in the sauce to do the tastings. So feel free to check that out. And then again, I would just say thank you so much, Mark, for coming. You've been an encouragement to me as we do events like this. Michelle, thank you for bringing your expertise. You have both the experience as a founder, and then you have this whole program as a resource. Luis, it's good to hear your experience. I'm glad to hear your motivation and why you want to make this product. And Ron, thanks for keeping it real and help us think about how we can develop ourselves to the edge, because that at some point is the bound of our business potential, is what we can do individually. We have all the best software. Thank you, Shipper HQ, for solving those shipping problems. Thanks, SendLane, for helping send the emails. We've got people like Amar to put the products in boxes. We've got Strata Cloud for the fractional CFO services. All those people are necessary components to make the business work, but at some point it comes back to the founder and what they're personally or individually capable of. You have to kind of keep growing, and these kind of events can help stretch us and help us make new connections. So thank you all for coming, and I want to give these guys a round of applause.